Mia Turner had coordinated hundreds of high-profile events in the grand lobby of the Lockhart Hotel in downtown Chicago, but nothing prepared her for the moment her entire past rose up in front of her with a single sting. She was kneeling beside a row of crystal centerpieces adjusting the placement of evergreen branches when she heard a voice she once knew better than her own heartbeat. It was Evan, the man who had vanished 3 weeks before their engagement dinner. The man who had left her with nothing but a silent phone screen and a hollow space where her future used to be. And now he was standing 20 feet away streaming live on TikTok with a ring light clipped to his phone and a new blonde girlfriend pressed against his side. Mia froze. She had not seen him in a year. Her chest tightened as though someone had tied a rope across her ribs. Evan angled the phone toward himself, full confidence in his smirk, while 40,000 viewers watched. She was not exciting enough, he said casually, when a comment asked why he dumped his last fiancée. That is why I left. The words hit Mia like a slap. Her ears rang. The hotel lobby around her blurred into a smear of gold garlands, warm lights, and polished marble. Guests halted. Staff paused. The cruelty of that sentence echoed off the high ceilings. And then the worst part. Evan adjusted the phone and the front camera caught Mia in the background. The stream chat exploded. Is that her someone typed? Is that the boring one? The comments rolled faster than she could breathe. Mia tried to stand, but her muscles did not respond. Heat flooded her cheeks. Humiliation spread like spilled ink inside her chest. She forced herself to walk away, but only managed 2 steps before the heel of her shoe caught on an extension cord. She stumbled forward, hard, knees, hitting the floor with a sound that cracked across the lobby like glass snapping. Gasps surrounded her. Someone whispered, "Poor thing." Someone else lifted their phone. Time slowed into a painful syrup. Her palms stung. Her vision wavered. She wanted to disappear, dissolve, vanish into the marble. But humiliation has a habit of stretching itself long and thin until it becomes unbearable. The live stream camera swung again toward her fallen figure like a spotlight on failure. And then a shadow fell over her. A tall, dark, perfectly controlled presence blocked the light. A hand, large, steady, and shockingly gentle, wrapped around her forearm, lifting her effortlessly as though she weighed nothing. Mia blinked up. Adrian Lockhart, the billionaire owner of the entire Lockhart Hotel empire, stood over her expression unreadable jaw carved in cold authority. His tailored suit contrasted sharply with the chaos unfolding around them. Without hesitation, he reached out and placed his hand directly over Evan's phone lens, blocking the live stream. His voice came out steady, calm, deadly quiet. "Turn it off now." The lobby fell silent. Even the holiday music seemed to pause mid-note. Evan stuttered, but Adrian's gaze did not waver. It was the gaze of a man who was obeyed without question in every boardroom across the country. The stream cut off instantly. Adrian turned back to Mia, his hand still steady on her arm. "Are you hurt?" he asked. Mia managed a shaky no. Her breath trembled out of her chest. Adrian scanned her face with surprising softness. Around them, the lobby slowly resumed motion, yet something invisible shifted. It felt as if the air itself folded protectively around her. Adrian leaned closer, voice lowered to a private register only she could hear. "Who humiliated you like that?" His tone held none of the pity she feared, only something sharper, quieter, almost protective. Mia swallowed, pressing her lips together. "It does not matter," she whispered, hating the small crack in her voice. Adrian studied her eyes for a moment, long and thoughtful, as though he was reading something she did not want anyone to see. Then he spoke with gentle finality. "It matters to me." Mia Turner barely slept that night. Even after she scrubbed the glitter from her hands and peeled off the black dress she wore for hotel events, her mind replayed the humiliation in loops sharp enough to cut. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw Evan's smirk, the live stream chat, the way Adrian Lockhart blocked the camera with the effortless authority of a man used to shutting down entire boardrooms. She should have felt grateful. Instead, she felt hollow, stung, exposed. She showered twice, hoping the hot water would wash the shame from her skin, but it only left her trembling alone in her apartment with the fridge humming like a restless animal. Morning came too quickly. Gray Chicago light filtered through her thin curtains when her phone buzzed violently across the nightstand. She groaned, reached for it, and nearly dropped it when she saw who was calling. Mom. Of course. There was no escaping her mother's intuition, especially in December when Christmas plans consumed her like a personal Olympic event. Mia cleared her throat, smiled the practiced daughter's smile, and hit accept. The screen filled with her mother's excited face framed by strings of homemade garland. Finally, she answered, her mother said as if Mia owed the world an explanation. Honey, quick question. Are you bringing someone to Christmas dinner this year? Mia's stomach dropped. Last year's Christmas had been a silent disaster. Evan had disappeared 3 weeks before their engagement dinner, but her mother insisted Mia bring him anyway, believing he would show up at the last minute like in some Hallmark redemption arc. He never did. Instead, Mia had sat at the table smiling too brightly while everyone exchanged pity glances over bowls of mashed potatoes. She could not do that again. So the lie slipped out before she could stop it. Yes, I am bringing someone. He is great. Her mother squealed loud enough that Mia instinctively pulled the phone away from her ear. Oh, sweetheart, I knew it. I knew love would come back to you. What is his name? What does he do? Mia blinked at the ceiling, searching for oxygen. The anxiety pressed her ribs like a vice. She forced a shaky laugh. You will meet him on Christmas Eve, okay? It will be a surprise. Her mother gasped. Oh, this is wonderful. This year will finally feel complete. Your father will be thrilled. And your sister is bringing her husband and babies, so now you will not be alone. The word alone stabbed more than intended. Mia ended the call with promises she knew she could not keep. When the screen went dark, she buried her face in her hands. She had lied. Again. And this time she did not even have a fake boyfriend lined up. She needed help. She needed time. She needed a different life entirely. Instead, she had a shift at the hotel starting in 30 minutes. She shoved herself into a navy dress, tied her hair into a low bun, and hurried out the door, gripping her tote bag like a lifeline. The Lockhart Hotel towered above Michigan Avenue like a monument of glass and cold winter gold. Mia slipped into the staff hallway, hoping no one would mention the livestream fiasco. But whispers clung to the air like frost. Did you see the clip? They cut it before the billionaire stepped in. She looked crushed. Poor girl. I think he helped her up. Someone said he yelled at the guy. I have never seen Mr. Lockhart lose his cool. Mia kept her face neutral, but her heart knocked wildly. She entered the event office, ready to disappear behind spreadsheets when her supervisor approached with a message. Mr. Lockhart wants to see you. Now. Her throat went dry. Of course he did. He probably wanted to make sure she understood that the Lockhart brand could not be associated with emotional collapses in the hotel lobby. She walked to the executive wing, feeling like she was being marched toward judgment. The door to Adrian's office stood open. He sat behind his mahogany desk, reading something on his tablet, the morning light slashing across his jaw, highlighting the controlled power in his posture. He looked up the moment she stepped in. Close the door, Mia hesitated, then obeyed. The quiet inside the office felt different, warmer than she expected. Sit, he said. She did palms sweating against her skirt. Adrian studied her for a moment, neither cold nor soft, just observant the way someone listens to every detail before making the final call. You did not answer my question last night, he said. Are you all right? She swallowed. I am fine. He raised an eyebrow. The I am fine of someone barely holding together. Mia exhaled slowly, her fingers twisting in her lap. I do not want yesterday to affect my work. It will not, he said. I am asking about you. The words landed heavier than she expected. She looked at him, truly looked. This was the man who shut down a live stream with a single sentence. The man who saw her fall. The man who shielded her humiliation with his bare hand. Most people would have broken after what happened, he said quietly. You did not. There is strength in you, Mia. She blinked at him, startled. No one had ever said that to her. She straightened her shoulders. My family called this morning. They want to know who I am bringing to Christmas dinner. Adrian's eyes sharpened just a fraction. And what did you tell them? I told them I had someone. He leaned back slightly as if putting pieces together. Do you? Mia winced. Not exactly, but I panicked. They were so excited. My mom thinks this year will be different. I do not want to disappoint them again. Adrian let the confession settle in the air. He did not judge, he did not sigh. He simply absorbed it like information he needed to act upon, and then he said the last thing she ever expected to hear. If you need someone, I will stand beside you. As your date. The room stilled. Mia stared at him, mouth parted. That cannot be real, she whispered. It is real, he said without a hint of humor, but why, she asked. Why would you involve yourself in my mess because you should not have to face humiliation alone? His answer was simple, direct, delivered with quiet conviction. Mia's pulse tripped. She searched his expression for a joke, but Adrian Lockhart did not joke. Mia said softly, I cannot ask you to do that. You did not, he replied. I offered, and if you want me to, I can make every person who ever underestimated you regret it. Her breath hitched. I do not want revenge. I want peace. Then let me give you that, even if only for one night. She swallowed, feeling the world tilt around her. Was she really considering letting a billionaire pretend to be her boyfriend to avoid another disastrous Christmas? Mia shook her head, overwhelmed. You do not even know me. Adrian held her gaze steadily. I know enough. You stood up after you fell. You walked away when the world mocked you, and you came back to work this morning like nothing happened. That tells me all I need to know. Silence pressed between them, warm and charged. Mia finally whispered, You cannot be serious. Adrian leaned forward. Hands clasped on the desk, voice low. Mia Turner. I am always serious. Mia Turner sat frozen in her chair as Adrian Lockhart's offer settled into the air like snow falling in slow motion. She could not decide if she was hallucinating from lack of sleep or if the universe had taken a bizarre turn in her favor. Adrian watched her closely, waiting with the patience of someone accustomed to silence carrying weight. When she did not respond, he stood and walked to a small cabinet built into the wall. To her surprise, he pulled out a leather folio, placed it on the desk, and opened it, revealing a blank contract form. Mia blinked. You are joking. He looked up. I do not joke about agreements, or about protecting someone who deserves better. She let out an incredulous laugh. You have a dating contract template ready? He closed the folio calmly. No, but I have frameworks for agreements built to keep people safe. The parameters are different, but the purpose is the same. Mia's pulse quickened. Adrian moved around the desk and sat across from her, giving her his full attention. Let us outline this properly, he said. You deserve clarity. Mia inhaled slowly. Okay. He lifted a pen. First rule. Neither party can offer or accept financial compensation of any kind. Mia nodded, relieved. Yes, please, no money. Second rule. No workplace advantages. You remain in your current role. No promotions, no benefits. Nothing that could be misinterpreted. Her brow softened. You have thought about this. I am ensuring you are not hurt, he said simply. Third rule. You may exit this arrangement at any time without explanation. There will be no pressure, no guilt, no follow-up. The word pressure made her chest ache. She nodded. Fourth rule. Any physical gesture must be mutually agreed upon. No surprises, no assumptions. What kind of gestures? Mia asked quietly. Adrian met her eyes without flinching. A hand on the back, standing close enough to imply comfort, holding hands, a brief hug. Only if you want. Her throat tightened. It was strange how this powerful man spoke with more respect for boundaries than the man she once planned to marry. Fifth rule. Adrian continued, if anyone questions our relationship, I will take responsibility. Not you. Mia's heart fluttered at the protectiveness in his tone. Sixth rule. Safe word. Mia blinked. A safe word. For what? for anything he said, if something becomes overwhelming or uncomfortable. You say the word, and I stop instantly. What is the word? Mia asked. Peppermint. Mia tried to hide a small smile. Peppermint. Why? Peppermint is a distinct word, and it is seasonal, he replied. Also, you said peppermint hot chocolate helps you breathe after panic episodes. Mia stared stunned. You remembered that from a brief conversation in the event hallway last month. She pressed her lips together, overwhelmed. This was not just an agreement. It was a man building a structure around her safety without making her feel fragile. Adrian studied her carefully. What do you need from a fake boyfriend? He asked. Mia let out a shaking breath. Someone who does not embarrass me. Adrian nodded slowly. Then I will become the man they regret overlooking. Words hit her like a warm wave and she had to look away. Adrian tapped the pen against the page. Now, your rules. Mia hesitated, then spoke. No lying to my family. If we do this, it has to be consistent. If you say you will be there, you show up. Adrian inclined his head. Agreed. You do not get to take over everything, she added. You cannot control Christmas dinner, or my family, or how I handle them. Adrian smiled faintly, the first real hint of warmth she had seen on his face. Understood. Anything else? She chewed the inside of her cheek, thinking. Yes, she said softly. I need to be able to trust you not to make me feel small. You have my word, he said without hesitation. His voice did not waver. He wrote each rule down with deliberate precision. When he finished, he turned the contract toward her. Read it. Every line. I do not want you agreeing to something blindly. Mia skimmed through the tidy sentences, surprised by how considerate it all was. She expected cold legal jargon. Instead, she found clarity, respect, mutual safety. Her eyes lifted to him. This feels too thoughtful. Adrian folded his hands. I have seen what thoughtlessness can do to a woman. I refuse to cause that kind of harm. Something vulnerable flickered in his expression before he masked it. Mia felt the moment shift. For the first time, Adrian did not seem like a billionaire monolith, but a man shaped by things he did not discuss. She placed the contract on the desk. Okay, she whispered. If you are willing to do this with me, I will accept. She was not prepared for the small exhale Adrian released as though he had been holding tension somewhere deep in his spine. Good, he said quietly. Then we have one final step. He reached inside the folio and pulled out 2 pens. He handed her one. Sign only if you feel absolutely safe doing so. His words were steady, but there was something softer beneath them, something nearly hopeful. She signed her name carefully, heart pounding. When she finished, Adrian gently rotated the document back to himself. He signed with a decisive stroke, then closed the folio. Agreement made, he said, and stood. Her pulse kicked. That is it, she asked. That is it, he said, but his eyes lingered on her with an intensity that made her feel seen in a way that was almost frightening. He cleared his throat. Now we practice. Practice, she echoed. Fake dating, he said. To make sure we do not seem unnatural in front of your family. Her cheeks warmed. What do we do? Adrian gestured for her to stand. She rose awkwardly, smoothing her dress. Adrian stepped closer, but not too close, just enough to test the air between them. I am going to place my hand on your back, he said slowly. Tell me if it is too much. She nodded, swallowing. His hand touched her lower back, warm, steady, respectful. Mia inhaled sharply, surprised by how grounding it felt. Okay, she whispered. He stepped closer, letting his shoulder brush hers. And this? He asked. She managed a breathy yes. Then he took her hand. Not forceful, not intimate, just a gesture of unity. How about this? He asked, his voice low. She could barely think. It is fine. He released her gently. Good. His expression returned to calm control, but his eyes held something new, something almost vulnerable. We will make this believable, Mia. Not through performance, through presence. She felt her chest tighten with an emotion she could not name. What do you need next? She murmured. Adrian looked down at her with that quiet gravity. "To make sure you never face another room alone." He said it as if it were a promise rather than a line in a contract. The next 3 days moved in a rhythm Mia had never experienced before, a rhythm built on small moments that felt bigger than they should, quiet breaths shared across short distances and conversations that revealed more than either of them intended. Adrian Lockhart was a man of structure, but around her his edges softened almost imperceptibly like steel warming beneath a gentle flame. Their first practice meeting took place in the hotel cafe, a cozy corner with cinnamon-scented air and soft jazz playing through hidden speakers. Mia usually ordered the same thing, caramel latte with skim milk and 1 pump of hazelnut, but she hesitated today, unsure how to act with someone who was technically her fake boyfriend. Adrian stepped up to the counter and spoke before she even opened her mouth. 1 caramel latte, skim milk, 1 pump hazelnut, and 1 Americano, no sugar. Mia stared. "You remembered," he gave a slight shrug as if it were obvious. "I remember details that matter." She accepted the warm cup, her fingers brushing his. The jolt that shot up her arm startled her so badly she almost dropped it. Adrian noticed, but said nothing. Instead, he gestured toward a table by the window. They sat, facing each other, sunlight catching in his eyes, revealing flecks of amber she had never noticed. "So," he began, "tell me something your family will expect me to know." Mia tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "My mom collects snow globes. She has dozens from everywhere." Adrian nodded, absorbing the information as though it were critical intel. "And your sister, she is a nurse. She is married and has twin toddlers. They crawl on everything and drool on everyone." A faint smile twitched at his mouth. "So, I should prepare for chaos." Mia laughed. The sound surprised her, warm and genuine, pulling at something deep in Adrian's expression. Their second meeting took place in the staff coat room of all places because Adrian insisted Mia help him choose something to wear for Christmas Eve dinner. He stood among racks of tailored coats looking absurdly out of place in the cramped space. "I own too many suits," he admitted. "I am aware that is not normal attire for a family dinner in Ohio." Mia bit her lip, glancing over the choices. "Do you have anything that does not make you look like you are about to fire someone?" He lifted one brow. "I do not fire people often." She rolled her eyes, amused. "That is not the point." She stepped closer and touched the sleeve of a charcoal gray coat softer than anything she had ever owned. "Wear this one," she said. "It makes you look less intimidating." Adrian tilted his head. "Am I intimidating to you?" Mia felt her chest tighten. "Sometimes. When you look at me like you are trying to read what I am not saying." His gaze flickered a subtle break in the armor. "I do not intend to intimidate you." She swallowed. "I know." When she reached up to adjust the coat on his shoulders, her fingers brushed his collarbone. Adrian inhaled quietly, almost imperceptibly, but the sound struck her like a pulse. "Are you okay?" she whispered. He held still, his voice deeper than before. "Yes, just not used to people touching me without wanting something." The admission hit her with unexpected force. Mia stepped back, giving him space. "I am not touching you because I want anything." "I know," he said softly, "and that complicates things." She did not know what he meant, but her cheeks warmed. Their third meeting happened by accident. Mia was finishing a late shift, prepping a ballroom for a corporate gala, when Adrian appeared leaning against the doorway, sleeves rolled to his forearms, tie, loosened expression softer than she had ever seen. "You should go home," he said. "It is late." "What about you?" she asked. "I am only here because my brother called to remind me I have not gone home in 3 days. The way he said it hinted at humor, but also something lonelier. Mia dusted glitter from her hands. "You have a brother," he nodded. "Younger. Wild. He thinks I work too much." "He is right," she said. "You do." Adrian blinked at her tone. "You sound certain, because you look exhausted, and you look lonely." His jaw flexed a subtle reaction easily missed. "It is not loneliness," he said carefully. "It is habit. Habit of being alone." Mia set down the centerpiece she had been adjusting. "Can I ask you something?" Why are you doing all of this for me? Why offer to be my date? Why step into a mess that has nothing to do with you? Adrian stepped into the room, the dim lights reflecting across his features like warm shadows. Because no one protected my mother, he said simply. She was humiliated in front of a room full of people, and I was too young to stop it. I will not watch another woman stand alone in shame. Mia's breath caught. The vulnerability in his voice was like a hairline crack in a thick wall revealing a softer core beneath. Adrian looked away briefly, then back at her. And because you carry yourself like someone who deserves better than you have received. She felt the words lodge beneath her skin, warm and startling. Their fourth meeting was not planned either. Mia found Adrian standing outside the hotel entrance the next morning, sipping coffee and watching the snow fall in thin, drifting flurries. She hesitated, but he noticed her immediately. "Walk with me," he said, and she fell into step beside him as they moved down the sidewalk past the twinkling shop windows. "Tell me something about yourself," he said. "Something no one knows." Mia tucked her hands into her coat pockets. "I am afraid of being too much and not enough at the same time." Adrian looked at her for a long, quiet moment. "You are neither. You are exactly as you should be." The words pressed into her like a balm. "And you?" she asked. "What is something no one knows?" He considered her question. "I am terrified of disappointing someone I care about." She blinked. "Do you care about me?" His breath fogged in the cold air. "I am beginning to." The admission made her steps falter. Adrian stopped to facing her fully. His eyes were steady, unflinching. "This arrangement requires authenticity," he said. "So I am being honest." Her heart thudded against her ribs. Adrian took a slow breath. "I want to make sure that when we walk into that dinner together, you do not feel like you are pretending anything." Mia whispered, "I do not know what to say." "You do not need to say anything," he replied. "Just let yourself be cared for without assuming it comes with a cost." They continued walking, their shoulders brushing in a way that felt accidental, but not unwanted. By the time they returned to the hotel, something unspoken filled the space between them, something warm, steady, and frighteningly easy to get used to. Their fifth meeting was the one that changed everything. They stood in the lobby reviewing the plan for the day when a guest carrying a stack of shopping bags bumped into Mia, knocking her slightly off balance. Adrian grabbed her waist instantly, steadying her, his grip firm, warm, and protective. Their eyes met. The world dropped away. In that suspended breath she felt it, the calm inside him reaching toward the storm inside her. The moment stretched long enough to become dangerous. Mia stepped back, pulse racing. "We should keep this professional," she muttered. "This is professional," he said. "I am practicing being your partner." She looked away, cheeks burning. Adrian exhaled slowly, grounding himself. "I will not cross a line without you choosing it," he said. "But I want this to feel real." "It already does," she whispered before she could stop herself. His eyes softened. "Then we are on the right path." They returned to work, but the air between them hummed with something new, something undeniable, something that felt like the beginning of a story she was not sure she was ready to believe in. By the end of the week, Mia Turner had almost convinced herself she could keep everything under control. She could handle the strange warmth in Adrian's eyes whenever they practiced their subtle gestures. She could handle his steady willingness to learn her boundaries and respect every inch of them. She could even handle the racing of her pulse every time their shoulders brushed in the narrow service hallway, or when he remembered tiny details she had not even realized she mentioned. What she could not handle was what happened on Monday morning. It began as a whisper, the kind that moves quietly through corridors where hospitality workers exchange glances and half-sentences. Then it gained momentum like a gust of wind sweeping through a canyon. By the time Mia returned from adjusting the floral arrangements in the East Ballroom, she felt the shift in the atmosphere, the way people stopped talking when she passed, the way their eyes dragged over her like she carried something dangerous. She tried to ignore it until a coworker she trusted pulled her aside near the staff elevators. "Mia, I think you should see this." Her coworker held up her phone showing a post from Reddit. It was on a forum known for gossiping about wealthy families and corporate scandals. The title screamed in bold text. Billionaire secretly dating hotel event coordinator, exclusive photo inside. Mia's blood ran cold. She snatched the phone from her coworker's hand, staring at the blurry image. It showed her and Adrian walking together on Michigan Avenue the morning it snowed softly. They were close, too close in the way that suggested intimacy. His hand was hovering near her back. Her face tilted toward him in a smile that looked too warm, too natural. But that was not the worst part. Beneath the image, comments flooded in like an overflowing river. She is definitely a social climber, another gold digger trying to catch a billionaire payday. Rich men love the sad girl aesthetic. She probably staged the fall to get his attention. Adrian Lockhart can do better than this. I bet she leaked it herself. Mia felt her legs weaken. She pressed a hand against the wall, steadying herself as her chest tightened. She barely whispered, "Thank you," before handing back the phone and rushing down the hallway. Her ears filled with static as she pushed into the staff restroom, locking the door behind her. She leaned on the sink, gripping the porcelain as if it could anchor her. Her reflection stared back, pale eyes, wide lips trembling. She closed her eyes, trying to breathe, but humiliation rose again, threatening to choke her. A knock sounded. Mia. It was Adrian. She stiffened. Mia opened the door. She inhaled sharply. "I cannot right now." His voice shifted low, steady, controlled. "You can." She unlocked the door with shaking fingers. Adrian stepped inside and closed it behind them. He looked at her like he was assessing damage and planning reconstruction in the same breath. What happened? She handed him the phone screenshot she had taken. His jaw hardened, muscles tightening beneath his skin. He read everything, all of it. Then he lifted his eyes to hers. "Who showed you this, my coworker?" she whispered. Adrian leaned against the counter next to her, his presence a solid, warm force in the small room. "Mia, I need you to tell me exactly what you are feeling." She shook her head, pressing her lips together. "I cannot." "Yes, you can," he said gently. She exhaled, her voice trembling. "I cannot do this. I cannot go through another humiliation. I just got through the first one. I cannot handle the world thinking I am trying to trap you." Adrian studied her with careful deliberation. "They are wrong." Mia laughed bitterly. "Of course they are wrong, but that does not matter because people love a villain. And apparently I fit the part." Adrian's eyes darkened. "You are no one's villain." His hand hovered near her wrist, but did not touch, letting her decide if she wanted closeness. She closed her eyes, grounding herself in the warmth radiating from him. Then he pushed off the counter. "Follow me." Mia blinked. "What? Why?" "Because I will not let strangers on the internet define our narrative." Her breath caught. Adrian walked out of the restroom purposefully. Fear and adrenaline tangled in Mia's chest as she followed him through the staff hallway into the main lobby. Employees watched curiously, sensing something erupting. Adrian did not slow until he reached the PR office where two communication directors sat huddled over laptops. They jumped to their feet at the sight of him. "Sir, is everything all right?" Adrian placed both hands on the table, leaning in. "There is a rumor circulating. I need a statement drafted in 15 minutes. The room tensed. "About what?" one of them asked. "About Miss Turner and myself." Mia's stomach bottomed out. She stepped forward. "Adrian, you do not need to do this." "Yes, I do," he said without looking back at her. His voice remained measured but sharp. "The statement will say the following." He paused, ensuring he had their full attention. "Miss Turner is a valued member of the Lockhart Hotels team. Any speculation about her motives or our relationship is false. She has conducted herself with professionalism, integrity, and grace under pressure. If protecting her ruins my reputation, then let it ruin me." The PR team froze, eyes wide. Mia felt her breath leave her body. Her pulse hammered against her ribs. Adrian turned to look at her then, and his expression softened just enough to make something inside her twist painfully. "No rumors, no attacks, no lies. I will not allow it." She shook her head, overwhelmed. "You do not have to defend me." Adrian stepped closer. "I choose to." Before she could speak, a journalist from a business magazine approached unexpectedly, having arrived for a scheduled interview with the hotel PR team, but he overheard enough to be intrigued. "Mr. Lockhart, is it true you are dating an employee?" The question cut through the room like a knife. PR stiffened. Mia froze. Adrian lifted his chin, voice level, steady, and intentional. "What is true is that Miss Turner was publicly humiliated, and I will not stand aside while people tear her apart online." The journalist blinked, surprised. "So, you are confirming something I am confirming, that she deserves respect. Everything else is none of your business." Someone gasped quietly in the corner. Mia's heart slammed against her ribs. Adrian stepped closer to her, as if physically shielding her from any more invasive questions. His presence was warm, solid, unwavering. The journalist lowered his voice. "People will speculate regardless." "That is what people do," Adrian responded calmly. "Then let them speculate. But I will not let them turn her into a punchline." Mia's throat tightened, emotion rising so fast it scared her. Adrian Lockhart had just risked reputational damage, his company's image and public perception, because she had been hurt by a rumor. For her. For someone he barely knew. When they finally walked out of the PR office, Mia felt her chest swell with something deeper than gratitude. Something slow, blooming, and impossible to ignore. She stopped him near the hallway. "Adrian," he turned. "Yes. Why did you do that?" His eyes softened, the rigid edges loosening. "Because when someone like you tries to quietly carry pain alone, it becomes unbearable to watch. And because someone should stand beside you even when it is inconvenient." Mia swallowed tears, threatening. "I do not want to be your obligation. You are not," he said firmly. "You are someone I choose to protect." They stood there in the dim hallway, inches apart, and their breaths tangling in the quiet. Something unspoken built between them, something warm and fragile and dangerous. Mia whispered, "Thank you." Adrian's voice dropped to a low rumble. "Get used to it." For 2 full days, the rumor storm refused to calm. Mia Turner felt every whisper, every glance. Every half-hidden phone pointed in her direction like a physical weight dragging behind her. But something else began happening too, something she never expected. Adrian Lockhart stayed close. Not hovering, not controlling, just present. A quiet, steady presence that somehow made the air around her feel less sharp. On Wednesday morning, the city of Chicago woke under a fresh layer of snow, and Adrian appeared beside her desk just as she was taking attendance sheets for the morning venue checks. Mia looked up, startled. "You should take the morning off," he said. "We have plans." She blinked. "Plans?" His eyes softened. "Christmas shopping. For your family." Mia froze. "You remember I told you about that?" He gave her a look that was almost offended. "Of course I remember. Christmas is 4 days away and your mother expects a boyfriend. Which means I need to be prepared." She could not argue with that. Instead, she grabbed her coat while her pulse skittered like an untrained animal and followed him outside, where a sleek black SUV waited at the curb. The city glittered white and gold as they drove through downtown Chicago, with snowflakes drifting like tiny feathers across the windshield. The heater hummed warm and soft. Mia tucked her hands beneath her thighs, trying to hide the nervous tremor in her fingers. Adrian glanced at her. "You are anxious." She stared at him. "Of course I am anxious. You are a billionaire taking me Christmas shopping. That is not normal." He almost smiled. "What would make it less overwhelming?" Mia let out a shaky laugh. "If you stopped being so calm about everything, and if you promised not to buy ridiculous things." "I promise," he said without hesitation. "We are shopping with intention, not with money." Something in his voice anchored her. The SUV stopped outside a local boutique, not a luxury designer brand, but a cozy, family-owned shop filled with handcrafted ornaments and small wooden toys. Mia blinked as they walked inside. "You chose this place," he nodded. "You said your mother likes snow globes. This shop specializes in them." Her breath caught. The store was warm and fragrant with cinnamon and pine. A wall of snow globes shimmered softly under warm lighting, glitter swirling inside glass domes like tiny, shimmering worlds. Mia walked slowly between the shelves, trailing her fingers across the delicate glass. "These are perfect," she whispered. Adrian watched her quietly, his hands folded behind him. "Which one feels like her?" She hesitated, then pointed to a globe with a small white cottage surrounded by snow-topped pines. "This one. It reminds me of home." Adrian took the globe, handled it gently as though it were something sacred. Then he turned it over and read the tiny inscription carved into the base, "The place where love grows warmest." He handed it to her without a word. Mia swallowed painfully. She had not expected to feel anything this big in a tiny shop. They continued browsing as Adrian asked questions with genuine interest. "What about your father? What does he like?" "Tools," she said, "or sports. But he says he does not need anything." "Everyone needs something," Adrian murmured. They found a carved wooden tool holder with soft edges and a simple design. It felt real, thoughtful, the kind of gift her father would actually use. Adrian bought it without hesitation, but not with the extravagance she expected. No platinum card, no pomp, just a quiet purchase with a folded receipt. For her sister, they chose matching Christmas pajamas for the twins and a soft robe embroidered with the letter H for Hannah. They walked back to the SUV carrying small paper bags, and for the first time in a long time, Mia felt lighter, like the air around her was no longer filled with judgment. As they drove towards the next stop, the world outside blurred into streaks of gold lights and drifting snow. Adrian broke the quiet. "Tell me what you do when you feel overwhelmed." Mia blinked at the suddenness of the question. "Why, I want to understand how to support you." The sincerity nearly undid her. "I usually step outside, just for a moment. Cold air helps me breathe." Adrian nodded as though memorizing that. "And what makes it worse? When people talk over me, or when someone tells me to calm down." Adrian exhaled softly. "I will avoid both." "You do not have to micromanage my emotions," she murmured. "I am not," he said. "I am learning your language." Something in her chest pulled tight. She looked out the window, needing space from the intensity of his voice. Stores blurred by until the SUV turned onto a quieter street lined with small bakeries and local shops. They stopped outside a candle store glowing warm with golden light. Adrian said, "Your mother likes scents, right?" "Yes. And she always lights candles during Christmas. Then we should get one for your family home." They walked inside. The store smelled like vanilla and pine and fresh winter air. Mia picked up a candle labeled Winter Orchard and closed her eyes, inhaling. "It smells like the hill behind our house," she said. Adrian touched the candle with a finger, turning it slightly. "Then we will take it." But this time he did not let her carry anything. He handled the payment bag and even opened the door for her. Mia rolled her eyes gently. "You know I can carry things." "I know," he said, "but I want to help." Outside, snow drifted heavier, giving the city a soft, dreamy hush. Mia huddled deeper into her coat. Adrian noticed, and without thinking he draped his scarf around her shoulders. She froze. "Adrian, yes, this is your scarf. It is warm. It belongs on you if you are cold." She stared at him, unable to speak for a moment. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded lightly as if the gesture meant nothing, even though her heart was doing dangerous things inside her chest. They continued walking slowly down the street, their footprints side by side in fresh snow. Mia glanced at him. "What about you? What do you need when you feel overwhelmed?" He hesitated. "I do not get overwhelmed." She gave him a pointed look. "Try again." Adrian exhaled a soft, defeated breath. "When I cannot control a situation, I step back. I need silence. I need clarity. And I need—" He stopped walking. Snowflakes drifted between them. "You need," what Mia asked softly, "someone who does not expect perfection." The honesty caught her completely off guard. She whispered, "I do not." He held her gaze with quiet intensity. I know. They walked again slowly, both absorbing the raw honesty of the moment. When they reached the last store of the day, a small bakery with fogged windows and Christmas wreaths hanging from the door, Mia pointed inside. They sell the best peppermint brownies here? Adrian paused. Peppermint, like our safe word. She laughed for the first time since the rumor broke. Yes. He nodded deliberately, as if committing the detail to memory. They entered the bakery, and warmth wrapped around them instantly. Mia ordered 2 brownies, and Adrian paid before she could argue. Outside, they split one as the snow continued falling around them. For a moment, the world felt small and soft and strangely perfect. Adrian spoke quietly. If someone insults you again, especially in Ohio, tell me. I will handle it. Mia shook her head. I do not want you fighting for me. I want you beside me. His eyes softened. Then that is where I will be. They returned to the SUV, both of them silent, but in a way that felt intimate, not uncomfortable. As they drove back to the hotel, Adrian glanced at her. Are you ready for Christmas dinner? Mia took a long, slow breath. Yes, because you will be there. Adrian's grip tightened just slightly on the steering wheel. I will be there, he said, and his voice carried the weight of a vow. Snow fell in thick drifting curtains as the SUV rolled down the quiet suburban street in Ohio, headlights sweeping across rows of modest homes decorated with twinkling lights and inflatable reindeer. Mia Turner pressed her palms against her knees, trying to calm the riot inside her chest. Christmas Eve, the night she had been dreading, and the night she needed to survive without falling apart. Beside her, Adrian Lockhart adjusted the charcoal coat she had chosen for him days earlier. It made him look soft enough to blend into a family setting, but still unmistakably powerful in the quiet way that drew eyes. You are shaking, he said gently. Mia stared at the glowing windows of her childhood home. I am terrified of what he asked, of disappointing them again. He turned slightly, his voice steady, grounded. I will not let that happen. The SUV parked. Warm yellow light spilled from the front window silhouettes moving inside. Her mother's decorations were visible from the street, paper snowflakes, stockings with embroidered names, a crooked star taped above the door. Mia inhaled deeply. Do not take over. Do not protect me so hard that it becomes about you. Adrian nodded once. Understood. But I will stay present. That is all I am asking for. They stepped out into the cold snow, crunching beneath their boots. Adrian opened the gate for her and let her walk ahead, even though every instinct in him seemed to want to stand between her and the world. She rang the bell, breath fogging in the air. The door swung open. Her mother gasped, eyes wide behind her reading glasses. Sweetheart. You are here. And this must be... Her gaze shot to Adrian's face and her jaw literally dropped. Oh my, Mia groaned internally. Mom, this is Adrian. Adrian offered a polite, warm smile. Thank you for welcoming me into your home, Mrs. Turner. Her mother blinked as if overwhelmed by his existence. Oh yes, come in, please, come in. Inside the house smelled like cinnamon rolls and roasted ham. Christmas movies playing softly from the living room where kids squealed and adults laughed. Familiar chaos. Her chaos. Her sister Hannah hurried over, balancing a toddler on one hip and wiping spit up from her sleeve. Mia. Oh my God! Mia. She pulled her into a one-armed hug, then looked at Adrian with raised brows, and... This is the boyfriend you did not tell me anything about. A voice Mia dreaded more than any storm slid in from behind Hannah. So this is the guy. Evan stood near the hallway, arms folded, a smug smile plastered on his face. His new girlfriend, Brittany, hovered beside him wearing a sparkly red dress far too thin for an Ohio winter. Mia's spine stiffened. Hannah's eyes widened. You invited them. Mom, what? Why are they here? Her mother rushed over, embarrassed. Evan lives next door now, and his mother insisted they join us this year. And I did not want to cause neighbor tension. Mia almost choked. Of course. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Adrian stepped closer, not in front of her but beside her, their bodies aligned shoulder to shoulder. Hannah's husband Tom approached, offering his hand. "Welcome, I guess. We were not expecting, well, this." Adrian shook his hand politely. "Thank you for having me." The room quieted, all eyes drawn to Adrian despite his attempt to blend in. Evan smirked. "So Mia moved on pretty fast, huh?" "Guess heartbreak is not that deep for some people." Brittany giggled. Maybe she was just waiting for an upgrade. Mia's cheeks burned, but before she could react, Adrian's voice slid into the space, calm, low, not confrontational. "I do not believe commenting on her heartbreak is appropriate." Evan blinked, startled that someone challenged him so gently. Hannah exchanged a look with Mia, mouthing, "Wow." Her father approached, then wiping his hands on a kitchen towel. He was quiet, reserved, a man of few words but deep currents. He studied Adrian carefully. "You treat my daughter well." His tone was firm, protective. Adrian met the stare without flinching. "Yes, sir. I will always treat her with respect." Something in her father's face softened. "Good. Dinner is ready." Everyone migrated toward the dining room where a long table was set with mismatched plates and garlands. Mia took a seat between Adrian and Hannah while Evan and Brittany deliberately chose seats across from them. Conversation sparked immediately. Hannah peppered Adrian with questions. "So, what do you do for work?" Adrian paused. "I manage properties." Mia nearly choked on her water. "Manage properties." He said it with zero irony, but her sister seemed satisfied. "Oh, nice. Plenty of jobs there." Then came her uncle. Big man, big personality. "So, Adrian, what made you notice our Mia?" She tensed, but Adrian answered smoothly. "Her strength." Brittany snorted. "Strength." "Sure, okay." Evan smirked. "She cried for weeks when I left." Mia felt the words like a stone thrown at her ribs. Hannah glared at Evan. "Seriously, stop." But he kept going, enjoying the attention. She was a mess. "I guess some people rebound better than others." Mia's hands trembled under the table, but then Adrian spoke. Not sharply, not angrily, just decisively. "You seem to enjoy speaking about her pain." Evan blinked. Adrian leaned forward slightly, voice quiet enough to demand listening. "She fell in love with the wrong man. That does not make her weak. It makes her human." The table went silent. Mia stared at her plate, trying not to cry. Adrian's words sliced through the humiliation with a tenderness she feels down to her bones. Evan scoffed, trying to recover. "Relax, man. It is just a joke." Adrian's eyes hardened. "It is only a joke if she is laughing." A ripple went around the table. Her uncle nodded approvingly. Her father grunted something that sounded like good. Brittany suddenly jumped into the silence. "So, Adrian, how long have you been with Mia?" Adrian looked at Mia first, a subtle check-in. She gave a tiny nod. 6 weeks, he said. Mia nearly dropped her fork. Her sister's eyes sparkled. "Well, that was fast." Mom beamed. "When you know, you know." Evan smirked. "Or you are desperate." Hannah hissed, "Stop it, Evan." But he didn't. He leaned forward, smiling at Adrian. "You sure she is not using you? Some women love attention." Mia's throat closed, but before she could speak, Adrian's voice dropped to a deadly calm. "Respectfully, you seem very invested in a woman you abandoned." Evan froze. Brittany's jaw dropped. The entire table stilled. Then Mia's father let out a single approving laugh. Mia's mother actually gasped into her napkin. Hannah choked on her drink. Evan's face strained. "I did not abandon her," he snapped. "I just needed space." Adrian raised an eyebrow. "Space? You filled with an audience on TikTok." Evan's mouth fell open. Hannah whispered to Mia. He saw the live stream. Mia swallowed, trembling. The entire room turned toward her, then her mother asking softly, "Honey, is that true?" Mia felt exposed. Heat crawled up her neck. She tried to speak, but shame knotted her throat. Adrian gently touched her hand under the table, a silent, grounding presence. She inhaled shakily. "Yes," she said, "it is true. Evan humiliated me, and I let him, but I will not let him again." Evan looked stunned as if he expected her to stay quiet forever. Her father cleared his throat. "Then I think we can all agree this conversation is done." Food clattered. Conversation resumed. Warm laughter rose again, but beneath it all, Mia felt something shift in her bones. She felt seen, supported, not rescued, but accompanied. Adrian leaned slightly toward her, whispering so only she could hear, "You handled that with grace." She exhaled a tiny, shaky breath. "Thank you for staying beside me, always," he murmured. Dinner continued in a blur of chaotic kids, spilled drinks, and loud jokes, but Mia could only feel the warmth radiating between her and Adrian. And she finally understood that this night was not about pretending with him. It was about discovering how easy it was to let him in. Dinner ended, but the storm brewing beneath the surface had only begun to form. Mia Turner excused herself to help her mother bring dessert trays from the kitchen while the rest of the family migrated toward the living room where Christmas music played softly and the twins shrieked in delight over new toys. Adrian stayed near the dining table, speaking quietly with her father about sports or something equally safe, giving her space while still keeping her within his line of sight. She appreciated it more than she could say. For a moment Mia allowed herself to breathe. Maybe, just maybe, the worst was behind her, but humiliation has a cruel way of returning when least expected. She was arranging plates of peppermint brownies on a tray when she heard a gasp behind her. Then a choked little laugh. Brittany stood in the doorway holding her phone turned toward Mia. Her glossy lips curled into a smirk. "Wow, Mia, you cried really hard here." Mia's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" She stepped closer slowly as if each step might set off a bomb. Brittany flipped the phone around and the world dropped out from beneath Mia's feet. On the screen was a video she had never seen but instantly recognized. It was her, last Christmas. Sitting in her car outside this very house, mascara running down her cheeks, breath heaving, her voice cracking as she whispered to herself, "Please do not cry. Do not cry. He is not worth it. He is not worth it." Her grief was naked, raw, private, and someone had recorded it. Evan walked in behind Brittany with a casual shrug. "I thought it was funny at the time." 20 seconds of weak girl meltdown. "And since everyone is playing perfect tonight, I figured why not remind you who you really are." Brittany giggled. "You look awful in this." Mia felt the blood drain from her face. The tray slipped from her hands, hitting the counter with a dull clatter. Her heart pounded so violently she could barely hear. "You recorded me," she whispered. Evan rolled his eyes. "Oh, come on. You were crying in the car for like an hour. What was I supposed to do?" "Not record it." Brittany nudged him. "Honestly, babe, you did her a favor. She might get sympathy views." Mia's breath broke. Shame washed over her in sharp, burning waves. The Christmas lights blurred, her vision tilted. Adrian's voice cut through the hallway like a blade. "What is going on?" Mia turned, but her legs wobbled. Adrian was already at her side, one hand hovering near her back, but not touching because he remembered her boundaries even while she shattered. Brittany lifted the phone toward Adrian triumphantly. "Look at this. She was crying like a child last year." "Guess heartbreak hits some people harder," Evan added. "She acts so strong, but this is the real her. Pathetic." Adrian's expression froze. Not angry, not shocked. Something colder, something controlled and lethal. "Where did you get that?" he asked Evan. Evan snorted. "I filmed it, duh." "She was sitting right there bawling and Adrian stepped forward so quietly it made Evan flinch. His voice was low, steady, terrifying. "You filmed a private moment without consent, and now you are showing it to people in her family home." Evan scoffed. "It is just a video." Adrian leaned closer. "No, it is harassment." Mia's mother appeared behind them, then confused. "Is everything okay?" Adrian kept his eyes locked on Evan. "Mrs. Turner, someone recorded Mia without her knowledge last year and is showing the footage at your Christmas dinner." Her mother's face drained of color. "What? Brittany lifted the phone as if offering evidence. "Look, Mrs. Turner, your daughter was having a breakdown. It is kind of funny." Her mother snatched the phone from her hand so fast Brittany stumbled. "This is disgusting." Hannah rushed in, hearing the commotion. "What happened?" Adrian's voice remained calm, but his eyes betrayed a storm. "Evan filmed Mia crying last year and showed it to the room." Hannah stared at her ex-brother-in-law in disbelief. "You did what to my sister?" Evan threw up his hands. "Oh God, everyone relax. It is not that serious." Mia's vision blurred again and she stepped backward, bumping into the counter. She hated that her body vibrated like a live wire. She hated that shame stole her breath. She hated that she felt like the weak version of herself the one Evan had molded. Adrian's voice softened instantly, shifting from lethal to steady warmth. "Mia, look at me." She did. His eyes held hers firm, grounding. "This is not your shame," he said quietly. "It is his." But Mia could not stop shaking. The humiliation surged too fast, too sharp, drowning out logic. "I need air," she whispered. She moved past everyone toward the back door into the yard, stepping into the biting cold. Snow blanketed the lawn. The world was quiet except for her ragged breathing. She wrapped her arms around herself, clutching her elbows. The cold should have hurt, but instead it numbed everything she could not bear to feel. A moment passed. Then footsteps crunched through the snow behind her. Adrian stopped several feet away, giving her space. "Mia." "I am right here," he said softly. She shook her head, tears burning behind her eyes. "I cannot do this. I cannot. He hurt me and it keeps happening. I feel stupid, weak, embarrassed. Every time I stand up, something else knocks me down." Adrian spoke gently. "You are allowed to feel hurt. You are allowed to feel overwhelmed. But you are not weak. I saw you face him at dinner. I saw you choose yourself. I am proud of you." She shook harder, tears slipping through even though she tried to swallow them. "You do not understand. Shame makes me feel small, invisible, like I am back to begging someone to stay." Adrian took a careful step closer. "You do not need anyone to stay," he said. "But I am here because I choose to be." She squeezed her eyes shut. "I do not want to be your project." "You are not my project," he said quietly. "Mia, you are someone who deserves protection without being told you are too sensitive or dramatic or messy or unlovable. You are none of those things." But she could not believe him. Not yet. Not when her deepest wound had been reopened in front of the people she loved most. "I do not want pity," she whispered. Adrian's voice deepened. "This is not pity. This is respect." She breathed unevenly. "And why does it hurt so much? Because healing always hurts before it feels like strength." They stood in the cold silence for a long moment, snow falling between them. Inside, she heard raised voices muffled arguing, Brittany shrieking something, Evan defending himself. Her family taking her side for the first time. She wiped her face with the trembling fingers. "I need a second." Adrian nodded. "Take as long as you need. But if you want me there, if you need me to stand beside you, I will walk back in with you when you are ready." Mia stared at the snow. She felt small, broken, but not alone. Not anymore. She took a shaky breath. Adrian stepped back respectfully, giving her breathing room, a physical reminder that she had control, even when the world tried to yank it away. After a long moment, she whispered, "You can come closer." He approached slowly, stopping just a foot away, not touching, not assuming, just present. His warmth radiated in the cold air. She exhaled shakily. "I cannot believe he filmed me. I cannot believe he saved that." Adrian's voice was steady. "He kept it because he needed power over you. But it is gone now. Not because I will destroy it, but because you faced it." Mia nodded slowly, absorbing the truth. She finally lifted her gaze. "When I walk back inside, it has to be on my terms." Adrian nodded. "Then I will follow your pace." They walked back toward the house side by side, leaving footprints in the snow. Before opening the door, Adrian paused and looked at her. "Mia, you did not break tonight. You confronted the past." That is strength. She met his eyes, and for the first time she believed him. When Mia and Adrian stepped back into the house, the warmth of the living room felt too bright, too loud, too close. Voices tangled in the air, overlapping and indignant. Her father was demanding answers. Hannah was pacing with a fury only a protective sister could summon. Her mother kept repeating, "I cannot believe this," while staring at Evan as if he were a stain on the carpet. But the moment Mia entered, everything fell into a sudden, sharp quiet. Dozens of eyes turned toward her. She felt her chest tighten. Adrian stayed beside her, but not in front of her, honoring her request. She swallowed, lifting her chin. "I am fine," she said. Her voice was shaky, but steady enough. "I do not want the night to be about this." Evan, clearly rattled, scoffed. "Come on, Mia. You are blowing this out of proportion." It was a joke. Her father stepped forward, jaw clenched. "Son, if you open your mouth again, you will be waiting outside in the snow." The room tensed. Evan shrank back for the first time in his smug life. Brittany huffed and clung to his arm. Mia looked at her family, her lifelong circle of chaos and warmth, and realized they were actually defending her. Not pitying her, not watching her fall, defending her. Still, she felt the edges of humiliation curled like a bruise inside her chest. "I am tired," she murmured. "I think I need some time alone." Her mother nodded, eyes softening. "Of course, sweetheart." Adrian turned slightly as if ready to follow her, but Mia hesitated. She didn't want him to leave. She didn't want him to stay. She didn't know what she wanted, and that uncertainty terrified her. "I will be back," she whispered. She stepped into her childhood bedroom at the end of the hall. The door clicked shut. The quiet pressed against her. Her breath shook. Her reflection in the small dresser mirror looked worn out, raw, fragile. She hated feeling this way, like the past still had claws, like she was always 3 breaths away from breaking. A soft knock sounded. It was not her mother's knock or Hannah's impatient tap. It was lighter, more intentional. "Mia, it is me." She closed her eyes. She didn't know if she could handle more emotion, but she couldn't push him away either. "Come in," she whispered. Adrian stepped inside, closing the door gently behind him. He didn't approach immediately. He stayed near the doorway, hands in his coat pockets, giving her space. "How are you feeling?" he asked. She let out a breath that felt too heavy to carry. Embarrassed, angry, tired. He nodded. "That makes sense." She paced the small room, fingers dragging along the dresser edge. "It should not affect me this much. It was a year ago. It is affecting you because it was a wound he reopened," he said softly. "You are not weak for bleeding." She inhaled sharply, emotion prickling again. "Stop saying things that make me feel something," she whispered. His eyebrows lifted slightly. "I am not trying to break you, Mia. I know. That is the problem." He looked confused. She shook her head, overwhelmed. "This is complicated. I thought I could handle the fake dating thing. I thought I could handle the attention, the rumor, the jokes. But today, it felt like too much." Adrian stepped forward one careful step. "If you want to end the arrangement, you can. No guilt, no explanation, and I will still respect you." She stopped pacing, staring at him. "Do you want to end it?" He blinked, the question hitting him squarely. "No, not at all. But I want you to feel safe." That was the problem. She did feel safe with him, too safe, and that frightened her because safety had never lasted for her before. She sat on the edge of the bed, burying her face in her hands. "I need space," she whispered through her fingers. "Not from you, just from everything." Adrian didn't move closer, didn't try to sit beside her. He simply nodded. "I will wait outside," he said. "In the car. For as long as you need." Her head snapped up. "You do not have to do that." "I want to," he said, voice low. "I want you to choose when you are ready for me to stand beside you again." The simplicity of his words undid her. She swallowed. "Okay, I will come out when I am ready." He gave her a gentle nod and left the room quietly. Mia stared at the closed door for a long time. Then she hugged herself, pressing her palms against her trembling arms. She didn't know how long she stayed like that. 15 minutes, 30, maybe more. She could hear faint voices outside her room, the murmured apologies of her mother, the quiet fury of Hannah, her father's low, steady comfort. But none of it reached her the way the thought of Adrian sitting outside in the cold night did. Finally, she stood pulled on her coat and stepped outside into the backyard where fresh snow had fallen. She wanted silence. She wanted to breathe. But instead, she found herself walking to the front of the house, her boots crunching softly down the driveway. The SUV sat at the curb, warm light inside, a silhouette in the driver's seat unmoving, waiting. Mia approached slowly. Adrian looked up immediately as if he had been staring at the windshield waiting for her shape to appear in the snow. He stepped out of the SUV before she reached it, brushing snow from his shoulders. "You okay?" he asked quietly. She nodded weakly. Better now. He studied her face. "Do you want to talk about it?" "No." She hesitated. "But I want to sit with you." His expression softened almost imperceptibly. "Then, sit with me." They climbed into the SUV. The heater hummed warm air into the cabin. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Mia leaned her head back against the seat, eyes fluttering shut. Adrian watched her carefully. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft. "Thank you for waiting." He responded just as softly. "I told you I would." She exhaled, trembling. "I cannot go back inside yet. You do not have to." They sat in gentle silence as snow tapped against the windows like soft fingers. The distance between them was not cold or sharp. It was tender aching, full of restrained emotion. After several long breaths, Mia turned her head slightly. "Adrian." "Yes, you were right earlier." "About what?" "About not needing someone to stay, but wanting someone to choose to." Adrian's breath caught faintly in the warm air. Mia looked at him and found him watching her with quiet intensity. She whispered, "I am not ready for anything real. Not yet." Adrian nodded slowly. "I know, but I am here, at whatever pace you set." She swallowed, eyes stinging. "I do not want you hurting because of me. I am not hurting," he said gently. "I am learning you." Something inside her loosened, the knot of shame, the trembling fear, the belief that love or care had to be earned through perfection. She turned fully toward him. "Adrian." "Yes, thank you. For all of it." "You do not have to thank me," he said. "I know," she whispered, "but I want to." That was enough. The heater hummed softly as they sat there in the warm, quiet darkness, two people not touching, not promising, but choosing presence instead. And sometimes choosing to stay was its own kind of intimacy. The next morning arrived colder than any December morning Mia Turner could remember. The Ohio sky was a pale, washed-out gray, and thin sheets of frost clung to every window of her parents' house. She barely slept after spending nearly an hour in the SUV with Adrian the night before, letting her breath stabilize, letting her emotions settle, letting the quiet presence of him mend cracks she thought were permanent. But even with that warmth, she woke with a lingering ache. The kind that comes from wounds reopened, and from truths she had avoided. When she stepped into the kitchen, her mother was already cooking eggs, humming out of habit, but her movements were stiff. Her father sat at the table reading the morning newspaper, but not actually turning any pages. Hannah leaned against the counter, scrolling on her phone and glaring at the doorway as if expecting Evan to materialize again. They all looked up when Mia entered. Her mother rushed to hug her. "Sweetheart. I am so sorry about last night. I had no idea Evan had something like that." Mia managed a small, tired smile. "It is not your fault, Mom." Her father folded the newspaper. "Did you get any rest? I tried." Hannah crossed her arms. "Where is the tall, brooding billionaire who almost murdered Evan with a stare?" "He went for a walk," Mia said, and then hesitated. "Or maybe he needed space." Hannah's eyebrows lifted. "Space or time to calm down after watching a grown man bully you?" Her voice sharpened. "I know you want to be graceful, Mia, but that was messed up." Their mother sighed. "Christmas Eve is supposed to be peaceful." Hannah scoffed. "Not when Evan is anywhere within 10 miles. Their father grunted in agreement. But Mia felt something shift inside her. Last night wasn't just humiliation. It was a mirror. She had seen herself again in that horrible video Broken Begging Small. She had hated what she saw, but she also realized she had never confronted Evan about it. Not really, not directly. She had swallowed the pain like medicine and pretended to move on. That was the truth she had avoided, that she allowed humiliation to live inside her, that she had carried it quietly like a stone in her pocket. And Adrian, he had seen all of it, yet he still stayed. She swallowed hard. "I need to talk to him," she whispered. He was outside on the porch, hands in his coat pockets, watching the quiet street as if absorbing its soft winter calm. His breath fogged into small white clouds. He looked up the moment she appeared. "Mia, are you feeling any better?" She stood beside him, gripping the railing as snowflakes drifted lazily around them. "I need to go see Evan." Adrian's expression barely changed, but something in his eyes tightened. "Do you want me to come with you, No?" She shook her head. "I have to do this alone." Adrian hesitated, then nodded slowly. "I will be close." "Only if you need me," she said gently. "I do not want to face him while hiding behind you." Adrian lowered his gaze for a moment, not offended, simply thoughtful. Then he stepped closer, his voice soft. "Very well. But you will tell me if he says or does anything that crosses a line." She nodded. "I promise." She found Evan outside by his car, warming it up. Brittany scrolling on her phone inside the passenger seat. He looked annoyed when he saw her approaching, as if she were an obligation he thought he'd already checked off his list. "Mia, if this is about last night, you need to relax." She stopped a few feet away. "I am not here to fight. I am here to ask why." He scoffed. "Why what? Why you filmed me? Why you kept that video? Why you showed it to people? Why you thought it was funny?" Evan rolled his eyes dramatically. "Oh, come on. You were crying over nothing that day." "Nothing," Mia repeated slowly. "You disappearing 2 weeks before our engagement dinner was nothing." Evan shrugged. "I got overwhelmed. You knew that. But yelling at me would not have changed anything, so you breaking down in the car was just something that happened." He smirked. "Honestly, you looked kind of ridiculous." Her stomach twisted, but she steadied herself. "You hurt me, Evan, and you knew you hurt me. But instead of apologizing, you kept the proof of it. Why?" He finally stopped smirking. His face hardened. "Because you made me feel like the bad guy. Everyone kept asking why I left you. My mom, my friends, even Hannah. I was tired of explaining. So you kept the video to what prove I was emotional, prove you were unstable, so it justified you running away." He flinched. "Do not twist it." "I did not twist anything," she said quietly. "You did something cruel, and then you repeated it, in my family's home." He scoffed. "You are overreacting." Mia's chest tightened, but she held her ground. "No, I am finally reacting. I let you define me for too long. I let your silence and your judgment become my reflection. Not anymore." Evan opened his mouth, but no words came out. She continued, "I am choosing myself now, and you do not get to be part of my story anymore." Brittany's voice pierced the moment through the open car window. "Babe, stop wasting time. Let us go." Evan stared at Mia with irritation growing in his eyes. "Whatever. Think what you want. But you are not some angel here. You needed someone to save you last night." Mia's breath caught, but she steadied her voice. "No, I did not need saving. I needed someone who would stand beside me while I saved myself." Evan frowned. What does that even mean? Mia turned away before he finished. Because that was the truth she needed. The truth she had never faced. She wasn't broken. She wasn't weak. She had forgotten she had a voice. When she walked back up the driveway, Adrian was waiting by the porch steps, not intrusive, not hovering, just steady like a lighthouse waiting for a ship to return. When she reached him, his gaze searched hers carefully. "How did it go?" She exhaled slowly. "I said what I needed to," and she lifted her eyes to his, "and I am done, letting him define my worth." Something warm flickered across Adrian's face, a subtle relief mixed with quiet pride. "That is strength, Mia," she swallowed. "It does not feel like strength. It will." They stood there for a long moment in the snowfall, the world silent except for distant laughter from inside the house. Then Mia spoke softly. "I want to leave soon." Adrian nodded. "I will drive." "But not yet," she added. He tilted his head. "When you are ready, yes." They walked back inside, but Mia felt different now. Lighter, taller, as if she had reclaimed something she didn't know she had lost. Her mother hugged her tighter. Hannah whispered, "I am so damn proud of you." Her father placed a strong hand on her shoulder. And Adrian, he watched her with something new in his eyes, something deep, something that made her breath hitch. Respect, admiration, and something warmer she wasn't ready to name. But, for the first time, she felt it she wasn't facing the world alone. She was choosing who stood beside her. The drive back to Chicago was quiet at first, not uncomfortable but full of unspoken things. Snow flurried softly across the windshield as Adrian guided the SUV down the long highway, the heater humming a low, comforting sound. Mia Turner sat curled beneath his scarf, staring at the passing winter fields while her mind churned with everything that had happened in the last 24 hours. For the first time since the humiliation, the fear, the confrontation, she felt the ground beneath her feet again. Not steady exactly, but hers. She glanced at Adrian. His hands were steady on the wheel, jaw soft in the dim afternoon light. He looked relaxed, but she could sense something else coiled beneath the surface, something he was holding back. After several miles, she finally spoke. "You did not have to stay with me through all of that." Adrian's gaze stayed on the road. "I did not stay because I had to. I stayed because I wanted to," Mia swallowed. "But why? Why go so far for someone you barely know?" He was silent at first, the kind of silence that meant he was choosing his words with care. Then he said quietly, "I do not barely know you." She blinked. "But you," Adrian's voice lowered, "I notice you. Long before the live stream, long before the rumors, long before this arrangement." Her pulse tripped. That confused her. "What do you mean, notice me?" Adrian's hands tightened slightly around the steering wheel. "Do you remember the night in November when a client screamed at you because the ballroom lighting malfunctioned?" She looked at him startled. "How do you know about that?" "You waited until he left, and then you fixed everything yourself. You were shaking, but you still apologized to the team even though it was not your fault." Mia's breath caught. She had thought no one saw that night. She thought she hid her trembling well. "Another moment," he said softly. "You always offer the first tray to the newest staff member at events, even when it makes your job harder." She stared at him in disbelief. "You noticed that, and—" "One more," he added. "The time you found that lost child during the holiday gala, you stayed with her for 30 minutes until security located her mother." Mia covered her mouth. "How do you know all these things? Because I pay attention to the people who treat others with kindness," he said. "Especially the ones who never expect anything in return." Her eyes stung unexpectedly. She turned away, staring out the window, struggling to steady the emotion rising in her chest. No one had ever said anything like that to her, but Adrian wasn't finished. "There is another reason," he said quietly. "One I have not told you." She looked at him again. This time he did glance at her just for a second. "When I was 12, my father humiliated my mother during a Christmas gala in front of over 200 guests." The words dropped like cold stones. Mia felt the shift instantly, not in him but in the air around him. He continued. "She had been planning that gala for months. She worked endlessly. She was proud. But my father—" He exhaled slowly, jaw tightening. He accused her of embarrassing him because the event started 20 minutes late. He shouted. In public, and I stood there, too young, too helpless, unable to do anything. Mia's heart squeezed painfully. Adrian's voice remained low, controlled, but vulnerable. After that night, she stopped attending public events. She stopped hosting dinners. She stopped smiling in pictures. He swallowed. "I promised myself I would never watch a woman break in front of a crowd while I did nothing again." A long quiet settled between them. The hum of the car, the faint whisper of tires on snow, the slow thrum of her heartbeat, they all blended into a stillness that felt heavy and heartbreaking. Adrian looked back at the road, but something in his shoulders loosened as though speaking the words had freed a weight he carried for years. Mia whispered, "I had no idea." "You were not meant to," he said. "But last night?" He hesitated. "When I saw that video, when I saw you run, when I saw you trying not to shatter, I felt 12 again. I felt like I was watching someone strong being crushed, and this time I could do something." He exhaled deeply. "So I did." She leaned back against the seat, absorbing every word, her throat thick. Adrian continued softly. "That is why I chose to stand beside you. Not because you needed saving. Not because you looked fragile, but because you reminded me of someone who deserved better but never received it. And because you looked at the world with the same quiet resilience my mother once had." Mia blinked rapidly, fighting tears she didn't expect. Adrian added one more truth, almost too gently. "And because you mattered long before you knew you mattered to me." Her breath caught. She stared at him, feeling the earth shift beneath her emotions. Adrian Lockhart did not say things lightly. His heart was a guarded fortress with steel walls, but somehow she had slipped past them without knowing. She whispered, "Why me?" Adrian's voice lowered to a near whisper. "Because there is a strength in you that does not need to shout to be heard. Because you care without calculation. Because you fall and to still manage to rise with grace. And because your presence makes quiet feel comfortable." She covered her trembling lips with her hand. "That is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever said to me." He smiled faintly. "I do not say beautiful things. I say honest things." She let out a soft, shaky laugh. "Then I guess honesty is beautiful." Adrian kept driving, but the way he glanced at her with a softness he never allowed the world to see made her chest ache. A few minutes passed. Then she asked the question she feared most. "Are you doing this because you feel obligated?" "No." His answer was immediate, firm, unshaken. "Obligation is cold. What I feel is not cold." Her pulse skipped. Adrian turned onto the lakeshore exit, the skyline of Chicago rising in the distance. The sun dipped low, casting gold light across the frozen lake. Mia watched him quietly. "There is something else I need to tell you," she whispered. He glanced at her, waiting patiently. "Last night I kept thinking I needed to push you away because I am afraid of needing anyone again." Adrian nodded. "That fear is real, but dependence and trust are not the same thing." She swallowed. "And which one is this?" Adrian's eyes softened. "This is trust, the kind that builds slowly and quietly, the kind that does not demand or take, the kind that chooses." She felt warmth spread through her chest, thawing places she thought would always stay frozen. The highway curved. Their hands rested inches apart between the seats. Neither reached, neither pulled away, but the pull between them was undeniable. Mia whispered, "Thank you for telling me about your mother." "Thank you for listening," he replied. The skyline grew larger. The city lights glittered like scattered stars, and Mia realized something impossible yet true. She was not afraid to face the world anymore, not because Adrian stood in front of her, but because Adrian stood beside her. Chicago shimmered beneath a blanket of fresh snow by the time Adrian pulled into the underground parking of the Lockhart Hotel. Christmas lights reflected off the glossy pavement, casting soft colors across the windshield. Mia Turner sat quietly in the passenger seat, fingers curled around the edge of his scarf still wrapped around her shoulders. She wasn't ready to let go of the warmth, not the physical warmth, but the emotional one he kept giving her without asking for anything in return. Adrian shut off the engine but didn't move. Neither did she. The silence between them pulsed with a strange tenderness thick enough to feel fragile enough to break. Finally, he turned to her. "Would you like to go upstairs? We can talk in my office." She shook her head. "No. Too formal, too exposed, too full of eyes and expectations." Adrian nodded once and reached for the door handle. Then, "Where would you like to go?" She took a breath. somewhere quiet, somewhere without lights or people or noise. He studied her face for a moment, then something gentle flickered behind his eyes. "I know the place," he said softly. He drove them out of the city, past glittering storefronts and winding residential streets. Mia didn't ask where they were going. She trusted him, and he drove with that calm, steady confidence that made her believe there was nothing frightening waiting ahead. After 20 minutes, they reached the edge of the city where the lake curved into a quiet wooded area. A narrow road twisted upward, snow crunching beneath the tires until they reached a small hilltop clearing. And sitting there, dusted in glittering white, was a cabin. A small wooden cabin tucked beneath bare trees' windows, dark but inviting. Mia inhaled sharply. "This is his mother's winter cabin." Adrian finished gently. "She came here every Christmas after the gala incident. It was her refuge, her peace, and it was mine too, for a long time." He turned off the engine and looked at her carefully. "I have not brought anyone here in years." The confession hung in the cold air like visible breath. Mia's chest tightened. "You sure you want me here?" Adrian's voice softened into something deeper. If anyone deserves peace, it is you." They stepped out into the cold, their boots sinking into soft powder. The air smelled like pine and distant lake water. Adrian unlocked the cabin door and held it open for her. Warmth hit her instantly, not in temperature because it was freezing, but in feeling. The interior was small, cozy, decorated with soft blankets and shelves filled with books. A single old-fashioned lantern sat on the table. Adrian lit it, casting amber light through the room. Mia looked around slowly. "It feels like a memory," she whispered. Adrian exhaled. "It feels like silence. And I needed silence for a long time." She turned to face him, and now he met her gaze. "Now I need honesty." The words pulled something inside her tight. She wrapped her arms around herself, not from cold, but from everything she couldn't contain. Adrian stepped closer, not too close, but close enough she could feel the careful intention in the space he left between them. "You said you were afraid of needing someone," he murmured. "I am afraid of needing you," she corrected. Adrian nodded. "Tell me why." She swallowed. "Because when I needed Evan, he left me. When I trusted him, he broke me. When I loved him, I lost myself." Adrian's jaw tensed, but his voice remained gentle. "You were never lost, Mia. You were grieving someone who didn't deserve you." She shook her head, tears prickling behind her eyes. "No, I let him define me. I let shame shape me. I let fear silence me." Adrian took a single step forward. "And last night you spoke. You reclaimed your voice. You stood alone and you stood tall." Her breath stuttered. "Then why?" "Why does it still hurt? Because wounds don't vanish when you confront the person who caused them. They heal when someone cares enough to walk through the pain with you." His voice dropped lower. "I cannot erase your past, but I can stand with you in every step of your future." She stared at him, the lantern light catching the gold flecks in his eyes. "Adrian." He reached into his coat pocket, then paused. "May I show you something?" It felt like he was asking for her heart. "Yes," she whispered. Adrian pulled out a small black velvet box. Her breath caught. "No," he said gently, reading her panic before it rose. "This is not a ring, not yet." He opened the box, revealing a thin silver necklace with a small star-shaped pendant. The same star she had admired during their Christmas shopping, the one she'd stopped to stare at twice when she thought he wasn't looking. Her heart squeezed painfully. "You remembered," he nodded. "Of course I remembered. I chose this for you during the shopping trip, but I waited. I wanted you to receive it not as an apology, not as a distraction, but as a truth." She tried to speak, but her throat closed. Adrian lifted the necklace. "May I put it on you?" She nodded, slowly, trembling. He stepped behind her, his fingers brushing the back of her neck with the lightest touch, a touch that felt like a whisper running through her entire body. When he clasped the necklace, she closed her eyes. The star rested above her heartbeat, warm from his hands. Adrian stepped back around to face her. The lantern flickered between them, casting gentle shadows. He spoke with a softness she had never heard in his voice before. "I cannot promise perfection. I cannot promise I will never make mistakes. But I can promise you this." He paused. "Weight, vulnerability, truth. I will not let you face anything alone again." Her breath escaped in one trembling exhale. Adrian continued, his voice steady. "I said I would stand beside you for Christmas, but, Mia, I want to stand beside you far beyond Christmas." Something in her chest cracked open. The pain, the fear, the longing she'd buried. All of it rose at once. She shook her head, tears falling silently. "I do not deserve that." Adrian's expression hardened in a way that wasn't harsh, but fierce. "You do, and you always have." Tears spilled down her cheeks faster, and he stepped closer so slowly she could have stopped him with a single breath, but she didn't. She didn't want to. He lifted his hand gently, brushing a tear from her cheek with his thumb. His touch was feather-light, reverent. Mia whispered, "I do not know how to let someone love me again." Adrian leaned in just barely until his forehead rested against hers. "Then let me show you." Her breath hitched. He murmured softly, "May I kiss you?" She nodded, tears shimmering. "Yes." Adrian brushed his lips against hers with the tenderness of someone touching breakable glass. The kiss was not rushed, not hungry. It was gentle, lingering deep in the way that felt like a vow whispered between breaths. She melted into it, her hands gripping his coat as if anchoring herself to the first moment she had felt safe in years. When they finally pulled apart, Mia was trembling. Adrian held her face between his hands, steadying her, grounding her. "You are not alone," he whispered. "Not anymore." She closed her eyes, letting the truth take root. Not rescued, not saved, chosen. When Mia and Adrian returned to Chicago the next day, the city felt different, not colder or louder or harsher, but strangely softer, as if the snow itself had absorbed some of the heaviness she'd carried for so long. Maybe because for the first time she wasn't returning alone. A cabin confession lingered between them like a quiet flame, warm and steady, burning low, but sure. They didn't talk about what it meant. They didn't need to. Their silence on the drive back was not avoidance, but companionship, the kind that fills space without spilling over. When they arrived at the hotel, Adrian held the door for her with a tenderness so subtle only she would ever notice it. Inside the lobby buzzed with post-holiday energy guests checking in, families dragging suitcases, staff rushing to and fro. But something shifted the moment the two of them stepped in together. Heads turned. Conversations paused. Phones lifted discreetly. A wave of recognition swept through the room. The rumor storm had not died. It had simply gone quiet for Christmas. A front desk employee approached nervously. "Sir," the press called again. "They want another comment." Adrian gave a curt nod. "Ignore them." "But sir, they can wait." Mia felt dozens of curious eyes on her, and the old familiar anxiety prickled along her skin. But Adrian stepped slightly closer, not shielding her, not dominating the moment, but reminding her of the truth he'd given her at the cabin. "You do not face anything alone again." She breathed easier. In his office, he sat across from her and loosened his tie. A gesture she was beginning to understand meant he felt safe around her. "Mia," he said, "there is something I want to discuss." Her stomach fluttered. "Yes?" Adrian looked down for a moment as if organizing his thoughts. "Your role here?" She blinked. "My role?" He looked back up, his tone gentle but purposeful. "You have been operating under a level of pressure no event coordinator should handle. You diffuse crises. You calm clients. You lead quietly. And you do it without recognition." Mia straightened nervously. "Adrian, I do not want you to offer me anything because of whatever this is between us." His lips lifted slightly. "I would never insult you like that." She felt heat rise in her cheeks. Adrian continued. "This is about your work, objectively. I've reviewed the employee reports from this quarter, and your name appears more than any other staff member. Not because of mistakes, because of solutions. You are the core of the guest experience side of this hotel. You always have been." She swallowed, stunned. He slid a folder across the desk. "I want to offer you a new position, Director of Guest Experience." Mia stared at him, her breath catching. That is a major leadership role, yeah. But I do not want it to be tainted by assumption, so the conditions are as follows. 1. You were being considered months before rumors started. He slipped a letter across the desk dated long before she ever spilled coffee near him or fell in the lobby. 2. You will interview with 3 executives. If any of them believe this promotion is because of our relationship, they can veto it. 3. If you accept the role, our relationship remains private until after the announcement. The offer was generous, and fair, and thoughtful in ways she didn't expect. Mia's voice trembled. "You did all of this to protect my reputation." Adrian shook his head. "To protect your work, your talent stands on its own. I only want the world to see what I already do." Her chest tightened. "I do not know what to say." "You already said it," he murmured. "At the cabin." She swallowed. "You mean when I said—" She couldn't finish. Adrian's eyes softened. "When you chose to let someone stand beside you." Emotions swelled in her chest faster than she could contain them. Adrian cleared his throat lightly. "Of course you can take time to think about it." She shook her head. "I do not need time." "I accept." Relief flickered briefly across his face before he masked it with his usual composure. "Good. We will proceed carefully." Mia nodded, and then something inside her shifted. Something brave, something strong, something she had not felt since before her heart was broken the first time. She stood, walked around the desk, and reached for his hand. Adrian's breath hitched almost imperceptibly. Mia looked up at him. "I want our relationship to be real, not fake, not temporary. Not because you feel obligated or guilty or protective, but because you choose me the same way I choose you." His hand closed around hers slowly, reverently. "Mia," his voice was quiet but deep. "This has never been about obligation." She swallowed. "Then show me." His brows lifted slightly. "How?" He asked softly. "Show me who you are when you are not the billionaire, when you are not the CEO, when you are not holding the world together. Show me the parts you hide from everyone else." Adrian's expression shifted the faintest crack in the armor, revealing something vulnerable beneath. He stepped closer, lowering his gaze to hers. "Come with me," he said. They left the office and rode the elevator to the penthouse floor, but not to his suite, and he walked past it toward a smaller, unmarked room at the end of the hall. "This is my private space," he murmured, unlocking the door. Inside was a small studio filled with sketches, photographs, old notebooks, and a half-played piano covered in sheet music. Mia blinked. "You draw?" He nodded. "I used to. It helped me clear my head during the worst years." She touched a sketch pinned to the wall, a rough black charcoal outline of a woman holding a child. Her heart tightened. "Your mother." He nodded. "This room holds all the things I was not allowed to feel growing up. Anger, grief, fear." She looked at him gently. "And hope." He hesitated. Hope was the hardest, until recently. Her breath caught. Adrian moved to the piano and touched the keys softly. "I have not played for anyone in years. Would you like to hear?" "I would," she whispered. He played something slow, mournful, haunting, something that sounded like heartbreak turning into healing. And Mia realized this was him stripped bare, not the billionaire, not the protector, not the man who destroyed a rumor with a single sentence, but the boy who once watched his mother break, the boy who carried her pain like a secret, the man who learned to build walls instead of leaning on anyone. Her eyes filled with tears. Adrian finished the last note, then looked at her. "That is who I am," he said quietly. "And you still want this." Mia stepped toward him slowly until she stood between his knees. "I want all of it." His breath faltered. "All of you," she whispered. His hands rose slowly, not forceful, not claiming, not demanding, but gently settling against her waist as if asking permission. She answered by placing her hands against his jaw. He leaned his forehead against her sternum, breathing her in. "You have no idea how long I have wanted someone to see me," he murmured. Her fingers slid into his hair, trembling with emotion. "I see you. Not your money, not your reputation. You." He lifted his head, cupping her face in both hands. "And I choose you, Mia." She closed her eyes, feeling his words settle into her heart like the first warm day after a brutal winter. They embraced, not desperate, not rushed, but whole. As if rebuilding didn't require pieces but presence. As if healing didn't require closure but connection. Adrian whispered against her hair. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." She nodded against him. Together. 1 year later, the world looked entirely different. The Chicago winter sparkle had returned, coating the sidewalks in glittering frost and dusting every rooftop with white. But this time, Mia Turner did not walk through the snow alone. She stepped out of the SUV, breath fogging in the air as Adrian closed the door behind her and offered his hand not out of obligation or show, but out of habit, the natural instinct of a man who had chosen her every single day since the moment they stood together in that cabin. The familiar pine scent hit her instantly. The same cabin, the same hill, the same quiet clearing where the world once felt too big for her to face. Now it felt like a sanctuary. Adrian held her hand as they walked through freshly fallen snow, their footsteps forming two parallel lines winding up toward the small wooden cabin glowing lightly from the lantern he'd lit before they arrived. The moment they reached the clearing, the snowfall thickened, drifting around them in slow, gentle swirls like the world was holding its breath. Mia looked up at him, cheeks flushed from the cold. "You brought me back here because—" He smiled softly, the kind of smile he rarely showed anyone. "Because this is where everything changed. This is where you let me in." She felt her heartbeat warm her from the inside. The memory of that first confession, the necklace, the trembling kiss, the vow whispered in lantern light rose vividly in her mind. Adrian stepped in front of her, then stopping in the center of the clearing. Snowflakes melted on his dark coat, catching in his hair, clinging to his eyelashes. His breath fogged in slow, steady clouds. "Mia," he said quietly, "do you know what this year has been for me?" She blinked. "What?" He took a small breath. "The first year of my life where I did not face storms alone. The first year where protecting someone did not feel like duty, but like meaning. The first year where I learned that love is not loud or dramatic. It is steady and gentle, and choosing the same person every day, even when it scares you." Mia felt her throat tighten as the emotion rose in her chest like a tide. Adrian reached into his coat pocket. Her breath froze. "Adrian?" He dropped to one knee in the snow. Slowly, deliberately, tenderly, the world stilled. Snow drifted silently around them like falling stars. He opened a small velvet box revealing a simple, elegant ring, a thin band of white gold with a tiny star set at the center reflecting the lantern light. His mother's star shape. The same star that rested at Mia's throat. His voice shook just barely. "Not because you need me. Not because you were once hurting. Not because I promised to stand beside you through every storm, but because you chose me every day, even when you were afraid. And Mia, I choose you back." She covered her trembling mouth with her hand, tears spilling freely. Adrian Lockhart met her gaze with every unspoken vow he had carried silently through the year. "Will you marry me, Mia Turner? Not because I protect you, not because I saved you, but because you are the safest place I have ever found." The snowfall thickened, wrapping them in a soft white world. Mia dropped to her knees in front of him and whispered through her tears, "Yes, yes, Adrian. I choose you, always." They kissed in the falling snow, gentle and full and warm, two people who had once been broken but rebuilt themselves by choosing each other piece by piece. The following Christmas, the Lockhart household, once cold-polished and echoing, glowed with a warmth it had not known in decades. Adrian and Mia's home sat high above the Chicago skyline floor-to-ceiling windows, reflecting the soft twinkle of holiday lights while snow drifted lazily against the glass. In the center of the living room stood a tall evergreen tree decorated with ornaments collected from every step of their shared journey. the wooden tool holder for her father, the snow globe for her mother, the candle from the orchard shop, the tiny silver star Adrian had given her in the cabin, and, at the very top, a larger star crafted by Adrian himself from silver wire and a small piece of polished wood from the cabin porch, the symbol of the moment their lives had changed forever. Mia stood in cozy socks and a soft cream sweater placing the final ornament on a branch. It was a crystal snowflake engraved with their wedding date. She felt arms slip around her waist, familiar and warm. Adrian pressed his chin gently to her shoulder. "Perfect," he murmured. "You always say that, because it is always true." She leaned back into him, warmth blooming in her chest. A year ago, she would have laughed if someone told her she'd be here safe, cherished, chosen. But healing had a strange way of rearranging everything. Adrian kissed her temple. "Your family is on their way, and they are bringing the twins." Mia groaned dramatically. "The twins are going to tear this place apart." Adrian smiled the soft, private smile he reserved only for her. "I fortified the tree." She laughed and turned to face him, cupping his jaw. "You are different now. Softer. Happier." His hands slid to her hips. "I had someone to rebuild with." She felt her throat tighten with emotion. He brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "You saved me as much as you think I saved you." She shook her head lightly. "No, Adrian, you stood beside me. That is what saved me." He kissed her forehead. "Then we saved each other." They stepped back to admire the tree standing tall and bright. It was not perfect. Some branches bent awkwardly, some lights tangled, but it reflected their story exactly. Imperfect. Resilient. Beautiful. The doorbell rang. Mia grinned. "Let the chaos begin." Hannah burst in first, the twins running beneath her legs like tiny missiles. Her mother followed, carrying tins of cookies, while her father brought a stack of wrapped gifts. The apartment filled with noise, laughter, warmth. And then something happened that made Mia pause. Her father approached Adrian and pulled him into a brief, awkward hug. "Thank you for standing by my daughter last year," he said gruffly. "I will never forget it." Adrian nodded, gripped his shoulder. She never stood alone. Mia watched them, tears pricking her eyes. Family. Healing. Love built quietly through presence, not perfection. As the twins climbed onto Adrian, demanding he help them hang just one more ornament, Mia stepped back, taking in the scene. Her home. Her family. Her future. She lifted her phone, recording a small video just for herself, not for the world. She whispered into the camera softly. "When someone chooses to stand beside you through your storms, let them. Do not push them away. Do not shrink. Let yourself be loved." She lowered the phone, smiling. Snow drifted past the windows, glowing gold in the Christmas lights, and she whispered to herself one last truth. I am not alone anymore. If you were watching this story unfold, would you want a love that stands beside you even in your darkest moment? Tell me where in the world you are listening from and who you would want standing beside you when life gets hard.